Tegan and Sara, welcome to Infobae. It's a pleasure for us to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
It's the first time you are in Argentina?
Yeah, it's our very first time.
And how is it? How do you feel it?
Well, already just driving around in the city, it's so beautiful. It really, I mean, it's as beautiful as Paris or New York. And for us, you know, we've been traveling for over 15 years, so to be in a new place that's so exciting is really cool for us.
And you have been traveling along the world. Brazil was the last place you visit, and you were in Lollapalooza also. How was that experience?
It was wonderful. I mean, we're not joking when we say we've been trying to get here for 20 years. We've always been curious about how we could get our band here, and we've, since, you know, Twitter and online, we've had so many people from Argentina and Brazil specifically who've said, come visit us, come visit us. So this is our first time, and we're doing Lollapalooza, and we've got a side show here tomorrow, and we've got 3 days off in Buenos Aires to check it out, and we're very excited.
How nice.
Yeah.
And also 17 years of your career.
Yeah.
I was reading yourself some information about you, and you started playing for Neil Young.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wow,
true.
right?
It was an unusual introduction. You know, we were very young, and we mostly played like punk music. And then we made a record that was all acoustic music, and Neil Young heard it and liked it. So it was unusual for us because we were not really a part of any sort of like folk or rock music scene, but it ended up being the way that we became a professional touring band, was touring with Neil.
Yeah, you already started with a very high exposure.
Yeah, it went like, yeah, it was like the next tour was like bars, you know. We were like, this is not as good as touring with Neil Young.
With the other one. But now we're presenting your 8th album, Love You to Death. What is the concept of the album? How did the music came?
Our last, this record and the one before, we made a more pop sounding record, so we were trying to make a more commercial record and aiming for radio. And part of our strategy was to write songs like we had before, but reach more people. You know, we really wanted to travel to more international places, and we wanted to and get the record to more people. So I think Love You to Death is a really great record for us. It's a very strong record, but it's still very like upbeat, but we sing a lot about love and relationships and loss. I mean, all universal things I think that people relate to, so it's been very well received. It's been a nice year.
Especially Boyfriend, that song that is...
People love it.
So many views in YouTube, in Spotify.
Yeah. And there's nothing like watching an audience of people sing that song to you. Like it's like a very funny sensation, like to have all these people sing You Treat Me Like Your Boyfriend, and then they blow you kisses and wink, and it's very nice.
Also another song that I like is White Knuckle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like telling about your early 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a sad song, but it definitely has a sort of triumphant chorus. Like, that's another song that's a little bit, it's so depressing, but people are like, singing, you know, like, I'm like, it's so weird.
Empowered depressing.
Yeah.
No.
And Dying to Know is also a good one, right?
Yeah, it's funny. That was a song where Sara and I actually collaborated. So we've always written and sang our own songs, and that's sort of been the Tegan and Sara sound. But over the last few years, we've done a lot more collaborating. So Dying to Know is a proper collaboration between us, and we sing different sections, and it's a real mouthful.
So we have a little bit of everything, pop, rock, like a good mix.
I think so.
Yeah, I think the future is really being determined by what young people like, and instead of it being like, oh, I only listen to rock music or I only listen to pop music, it's like everybody is listening to you know, a lot of different things, and so in a way we're sort of reflecting that, like all of the music we grew up with, but then also the music that we listen to now, and it doesn't feel like we're sort of restricted to one type of genre now.
I see that a clear example is the song that you made for the movie that you play in the Oscar.
Yeah, everything is awesome. Yeah, that's the thing. It sort of feels like, you know, we've done collaborations with Tiesto, so we've done like dance music, and then we've also done, you know, we've done collaborations with rock musicians. We've made albums that are sort of poppy, acoustic. Like, we just feel like we can sort of move between genres easily, and our fans seem to be okay with it.
Yeah, it's easy to see the evolution of all these 17 years.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most difficult thing that happened in the career, or the thing that you needed to support yourself more?
I think that we have this perception that you join a band and you get signed and then you're just famous and everything's great and every night is fun. And I think there were a lot of years where we really struggled to like pay the bills or get people to come see us. And I think that was our training. Like, it was like going to school. We had to learn a lot, and there were a lot of dark times where we were like, why are we doing this? But I feel grateful that we had that experience, and I think we learned a lot, and it made us a stronger band. But it's hard. It's like there's so many great bands, and there's so many places to go, and it's a lot of work. I think it's more work than people think. So, I think there were just a lot of years where we were really tired, and we were like, maybe we should give up, but we just kind of powered through and got ourselves here.
It's a lot of competition, right? People now put the video on YouTube, and it's not that your only competition is the place that you live in.
Yeah.
So
that's a really good point. There's something really remarkable about how international the music scene is now. Before, you kind of were only competing for attention we were from Canada, so we were really competing against Canadian bands. But now we do feel we have to sort of cut through the noise of what is happening everywhere. But then it's also sort of like amazing because we're getting to go to places that we never would have been able to go without the internet, and that sort of international flexibility between radio and television and Spotify and whatever.
I see you have a lot of interactions between social media. You're always putting message positives, people to open mind the people. Also, the other day was a few months ago. You put something like, "Liberation is not liberation without trans liberation." Something like that. I don't know if I said it correct.
You did.
But what was the meaning? What were you trying to say?
Well, I think our band, because we've always been very political, and we're feminists and we're queer. LGBTQ rights has been really important to us, and I think right now the next huge movement within our community and within society is to protect transgender people and their rights. And I think we've often left that part of our community out. I think it's been harder for people to wrap their minds around what being transgender is, and I think even within our own community there's been a real push for marriage equality, and I think that it's time now for us to step up and fight for that part of our community. They're the most marginalized, and they're suffering the most, and I think at this point that movement and that liberation of transgender people is for us is very important, and I hope we can continue to. You said something about how we like to put positive things out there. That's very important to the Tegan and Sara community. No matter who you are or why you listen to us, we really try to give people positive things to work towards and positive movements to join, and hopefully give people hope.
Do you think society is still evolving in acceptance and inclusion about the LGBT community?
I think that it's definitely an evolution. It's certainly better for us than it was 20 years ago, and it's certainly better for us now than it was for people, in the generations that came before us. But we travel to countries every day that don't have any of the rights that we have, don't have any of the protections that we have in Canada,
or here.
Argentina's very
very progressive.
Very progressive. But I think that for us, it's less about focusing on always the things that are maybe not progressing, and focusing on all the victories and the sort of like successes that the community is having, and sort of trying to be role models and give inspiration to the people who are still struggling.
As an artist, you have a stronger voice than many other people. So what message do you would like to give to a young generation of LGBT community?
I mean, for us, we are sort of here to say that you can have a successful and a happy life, and you can find love, and you can find a community and support. And for the people who really can't access that, we always say, like, we're out here fighting for your visibility and for your for the respect that you deserve as a person.
Do you ever feel discriminated before?
Well, it's been tough in our career because for so many years people ask that. They would be like, as women or as queer people, do you feel that you've had a harder time, or has there been discrimination? And I think sometimes yes, and then sometimes we didn't feel it. We felt very embraced. We were very lucky. We got signed by Neil Young. We went on tour with The Killers and Cyndi Lauper and all these amazing bands, and we've really been so lucky that I almost have felt reluctant to admit, sometimes we are discriminated against, because I want to focus on the victories and the successes, but I think the world is still evolving and changing, and I think that the combination of us being women and being gay has sometimes held us back, for sure. I think the mainstream, it took time for them to understand and to accept us. So the last few years have been really wonderful because the mainstream has embraced us, and it's wonderful to see our community being accepted and seeing these wins. But there were times where it was hard. You know, you struggle because you want to be successful and you want to be accepted, and oftentimes what's hardest is seeing your friends and family suffer because you suffer. You know, anytime we're discriminated against, I know it hurts my mom or you know the people who work for us. So I think it's lots of wins, but there's losses too. You know, and there is unfortunately discrimination, of course.
Do you receive a lot of messages of girls telling you this, that they suffer and that they feel identified with your story?
You know, we hear from a lot of different types of people in our fan base, and I think that there is something incredibly comforting about listening to music and feeling like your story is represented in that music. So we hear from kids who maybe it's just as simple as they have a broken heart, like they got dumped, you know? I mean, sometimes it's just simple stories like that. They want us to know that, you know, a song like 19, you know, like they say like, oh, this is me, this is my story, I connect to that. And there's a I don't know, maybe there's a strength in knowing that you're not the only person that feels this way. So we try to be
we used to hear that early on too about being musicians. Like a lot of young people would come to the show and say, it's so cool that you guys write your own songs and you play all the instruments, and that's been important to us. Like we saw right away that the visibility we had was going to help other people. So we felt responsible for that. We wanted to be good role models. And yeah, there's, even in the sad stories, like Sara said, it's just nice, the community, whether someone has a broken heart or they just didn't know that they could write their own songs. I hope that we've brought positive things into people's lives.
I imagine that the transition between these whole years of becoming what you are now, it took you a lot of sacrifice. For example, when your friends were in college and you were going from one place to another or not being in your house a lot of time, how do you experience that? What was your motto to keep you going?
It's tough because there's a sacrifice, like you're not always with the people you want to be with, but I think there's something so, I don't know, like addictive about getting to travel all the time. And when I see, like, okay, right now, like looking at everybody at the computer and, you know, and they're like gonna go home tonight and eat dinner and be with their loved ones or whatever, like that seems cool, but also sometimes I'm like, I think I might be bored doing that, you know, like I sort of need this, like, I need all of this change and the travel, and I sort of need that excitement now. So it is a sacrifice, but then there's a real reward too.